What happens if you stop trying to hold the moment and simply let it slip through your fingers like water? You know, it's the most extraordinary thing. The moment you stop grasping, you discover that the grip itself was the tension you feared all along. It's rather like trying to catch a handful of water. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. But cup your hands gently, and there it rests. Now I'm going to make you a rather bold promise. Spend the next hour with me, and chaos will cease to be your enemy. In fact, you might even discover it's been your dance partner all along. You've just been stepping on its toes because you insisted on leading. So sit back, preferably with a cup of tea that you're ready to forget you're holding, and let's explore this magnificent muddle we call existence. You see, we have this word chaos, and most people treat it as if it were some sort of cosmic villain twirling its mustache, plotting to upset their carefully arranged apple carts. But this is a terrible misunderstanding. The ancient Greeks who gave us this word didn't see chaos as disorder at all. Chaos was the vast, pregnant void from which all things emerged, the cosmic womb, if you will. It was pure potentiality, the source of all creativity. In Hindu philosophy, they have this delightful concept called Lila, the divine play. The universe isn't some grim mechanical process grinding away according to inexorable laws. It's a dance, a game, an improvisation. God, or whatever you want to call the fundamental reality, is playing hide and seek with itself, and you and I are the hiding places. Chaos isn't the enemy of this game. It's what makes the game possible. Without unpredictability, without surprise, what would be the point? It would be like playing poker with all the cards face up. Utterly boring. Now, here in the West, we've developed what I can only call an addiction to straight lines. We wake up to the tyranny of alarm clocks, shuttle ourselves to work on schedules as rigid as prison routines, and measure our lives in quarterly reports and annual reviews. We've taken the magnificent, wiggly, wonderful world and tried to stuff it into graph paper. Think about it. When did this obsession begin? With the Industrial Revolution, we started treating time as a commodity. Time is money, we say, as if the movement of the cosmos could be deposited in a bank account. We put bells in schools to train children to respond to mechanical signals like Pavlov's dogs. We created the 9-to-5 workday, as if human creativity could be switched on and off like a light bulb. And what happens when life refuses to follow our straight lines? When the market crashes? When the relationship ends? When the diagnosis comes back different than expected? We have what we call a nervous breakdown, which is really just the nervous system's way of saying, I can't pretend to be a machine anymore. But look at nature, really look at it. Where do you find a straight line? The coastline isn't straight, it's what mathematicians call a fractal. The closer you look, the more wiggly it becomes. Clouds don't have edges you can measure with a ruler. Rivers don't flow in neat channels unless we force them to, and when we do, they flood with a vengeance. Your very body is nothing but wiggle. Your heartbeat isn't perfectly regular. If it were, you'd be dead. It dances with what scientists call heart rate variability. Your brain waves undulate. Even your DNA spirals and twists. If you want straight lines, I'm afraid you'll have to go to a graveyard. Even there, only the headstones qualify, and they're human additions to the scene. This brings us to what I call the myth of control, one of the most persistent and pernicious illusions of our culture. We've hypnotized ourselves into believing that we are separate from the universe, standing outside it somehow, pushing and pulling levers to make things happen. It starts young, doesn't it? We grade children, turning the natural joy of learning into a competitive sport. We create career ladders, as if human worth could be measured in rungs. We buy insurance policies against acts of God, which is rather like taking out insurance against existence itself. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets really interesting. There is no separate you that stands outside the flow of existence trying to control it. This is the grand illusion, what the Hindus call Maya. You are not a separate being confronting an alien universe. You are something the universe is doing in the same way that a wave is something the ocean is doing. Think about it this way. Can you have an organism without an environment? Can you have an environment without organisms? They arise together, they define each other, they are aspects of a single process. You don't come into this world, you come out of it, like an apple comes out of an apple tree. The universe peoples just as an apple tree apples. So this idea that you're a little isolated consciousness trapped in a bag of skin, trying desperately to control an unpredictable external world, it's pure mythology. You're not the driver of the car, you're more like a whirlpool in the stream, a pattern that water is doing. And a whirlpool doesn't control water, it is water doing its whirlpool thing. Now we come to anxiety, which is really the interest paid on a future that never arrives. We spend our lives preparing for disasters that rarely happen, while missing the disaster of spending our lives in preparation. The neuroscientists tell us about something called prediction error. The brain is constantly trying to predict what's going to happen next, and when reality doesn't match the prediction, we feel distress. But here's the cosmic joke. The brain that's doing the predicting is itself part of the unpredictable universe. It's like a wave trying to predict the ocean. We check weather forecasts obsessively, as if knowing it's going to rain tomorrow will keep us dry. We plan and scheme and worry, all in the service of a control that doesn't exist. Let me share with you a different way of being in the world. Think about music. What makes music beautiful? It's not just the notes, it's the silence between them. Without the gaps, without the pauses, you don't have music, you have noise. The silence isn't empty space waiting to be filled. The silence is what allows the notes to be notes. Chaos plays the same role in life that silence plays in music. It provides the rhythm, the unexpected turns, the creative possibilities. Without it, existence would be one long, unchanging note, which is to say, no note at all. I learned this viscerally when I first tried surfing in Sausalito. There I was, thinking I could master the waves, impose my will upon them. The ocean had other ideas. My first wipeout was spectacular. A complete loss of control, tumbling in the foam, not knowing which way was up. And in that moment of complete surrender, something shifted. I realized the board doesn't tame the ocean, it reads it. The surfer doesn't conquer the wave, they dance with it. This is what the Taoists call Wu Wei, action without forcing, effort without strain. Lao Tzu puts it beautifully. Nothing in the world is softer than water, yet nothing is better at overcoming the hard and strong. Water doesn't argue with rocks, it flows around them, over them, through them, and eventually turns them to sand. When you row a boat, you can exhaust yourself fighting the current, or you can work with it, using its power to amplify your own. Life offers us the same choice in every moment. We can exhaust ourselves trying to force reality into our preconceptions, or we can dance with what is. Think of life as an improv comedy show. The first rule of improv is yes and. Whatever your scene partner throws at you, you don't block it, you don't deny it, you accept it and build on it. Your car breaks down? Yes, and now you have an unexpected adventure. Your plans fall through? Yes, and now you're free to discover what wants to happen instead. Now let's get practical. How do we actually relax into chaos? First, we prepare the theater of awareness. Find yourself a comfortable position, not so comfortable that you fall asleep, but comfortable enough that your body isn't shouting for attention. Let your breath find its own rhythm. Don't control it. Breathing knows how to happen without your management. Begin at your toes. Feel them, these marvelous little appendages that have carried you through life. Notice any tension there and simply say hello to it. Don't try to relax. Trying to relax is like trying to fall asleep. It's a contradiction in terms. Just notice. Move your attention slowly up through your feet, your ankles, your calves. This isn't a project to be completed. It's a greeting to be offered. Continue this gentle greeting up through your knees, your thighs, your hips. Notice how the body holds itself all by itself without your conscious management. Your spine stacks itself, your organs arrange themselves, your heart beats. All without your supervision. Rather miraculous, isn't it? As you continue up through your belly, your chest, your shoulders, you might notice areas of holding, of tension. These are just places where the body is trying to control something. Thank them for their effort and suggest gently that they might enjoy a little vacation. Now here's an interesting experiment. Think of something that's been worrying you. Not the biggest worry, just a medium-sized one. Got it? Now instead of pushing it away, invite it closer, amplify it, make it ridiculously large. If you're worried about being late, imagine being so late that you arrive after everyone has gone home, the building has been demolished, and archaeologists are excavating the ruins. Make it absurd. What happens? The worry pops like a soap bubble. It can't maintain itself when you stop feeding it with resistance. This is the secret. What we resist persists. What we allow dissolves. You see, worry is a peculiar form of meditation. Yes, meditation. The worrier is intensely focused, completely absorbed in their object of contemplation. The only difference between worry and what we normally call meditation is that worry has terrible taste in choosing what to contemplate. It's like having a magnificent stereo system and playing nothing but recordings of fingernails on blackboards. But here's where it gets delicious. You can use the very same mechanism that creates worry to dissolve it. The mind that creates the problem is the same mind that can uncreate it. Not solve it, mind you, uncreate it. Because most of our problems aren't things that exist in nature. They're constructions, architectural follies built from thoughts and sustained by attention. Let me tell you about a man I knew who was terrified of losing his job. Every day he went to work convinced it would be his last. He prepared elaborate defenses for mistakes he hadn't made, rehearsed explanations for failures that hadn't occurred. He was, in essence, living in a future that existed nowhere but in his imagination. One day he decided to experiment. Instead of fighting his fear, he embraced it completely. He imagined getting fired in the most spectacular way possible. Security guards, boxes of personal items, the whole theatrical production. He imagined it so vividly, so completely, that he started to laugh. The absurdity of spending his present moments living in an imaginary future became clear. And then something remarkable happened. He realized that even if he did lose his job, life would continue. The sun would rise, food would still taste good, music would still move him. The job was just a job, not his existence. From that day forward, he worked with a lightness that had been missing for years. Ironically, or perhaps not ironically at all, his performance improved so much that he was promoted. This is what I mean by the allow and amplify technique. You take your fear, your anxiety, your desperate need for control, and instead of fighting it, you become its most enthusiastic supporter. You say, yes, let's worry. Let's worry magnificently. Let's worry with such creativity and panache that we'll win the Olympic gold medal in worrying. And what happens? The whole structure collapses under its own weight. It's like trying to have an argument with someone who keeps agreeing with you. The conflict can't sustain itself. Now, for everyday chaos, we need what I call micro-meditations. These aren't separate from life. They are life, suddenly recognized for what it is. Stuck in traffic? Perfect. You're not stuck in traffic, you are traffic. You're part of this magnificent river of metal and flesh, all pulsing together like blood cells in the arteries of the city. The red lights aren't obstacles. They're rhythmic pauses in the urban symphony. Watch how your mind immediately wants to be somewhere else. I should be there by now. Should? According to whom? The universe has arranged for you to be exactly here, exactly now. Fighting it is like a wave complaining about the ocean, deadline looming. Beautiful. You get to watch the mind create drama out of concepts. What is a deadline? A thought about a future moment when something must be completed. But have you ever noticed that the deadline, when it arrives, is just another now? It's never the future that arrives. It's always just another present moment, wearing a different costume. This doesn't mean you don't act. Of course you act. But you act from presence, not from panic. You do what you do because it's what you're doing, not because you're being chased by the fictional monster of or else. The quality of action that emerges from this state is entirely different. Cleaner, clearer, more effective. Broken plate, wonderful. You've just been given a lesson in impermanence, and it only cost you some crockery. In Japan, there's an art called kintsugi. They repair broken pottery with gold, making the repaired piece more beautiful than the original. The breaks become part of the history, part of the beauty. Your life is like this. Every break, every crack, every moment of chaos is an opportunity for gold. But we're so afraid of breaking, aren't we? We handle ourselves like we're made of the finest china, terrified of the slightest chip. But you're not china. You're more like water, infinitely adaptable, impossible to break. You can be poured into any container, heated to steam, frozen to ice, and still you remain essentially yourself. Before sleep each night, try this. Lay your plans on the pillow like you're tucking in a child. Tell them, you've worked hard today. Rest now. Let sleep edit the script. You'll be amazed how often you wake with solutions you couldn't have planned. The conscious mind, you see, is like a board of directors, very impressed with itself, makes a lot of noise, but often hasn't the faintest idea what's really going on in the company. The unconscious mind, on the other hand, is like the workers who actually keep things running. Give them the night shift and they'll sort things out. There's something profound happening when we sleep. The controlling ego takes a break, and the deeper wisdom of the organism takes over. Problems that seemed intractable suddenly reveal their solutions. Creative insights bubble up like springs from underground streams. This isn't mystical, it's practical. The universe has been solving problems for billions of years. Your little local difficulties are not going to stump it. Now, there's an old Zen story about an archery master that perfectly illustrates our relationship with control and chaos. His students noticed that he only hit the bullseye when he wasn't trying. When he demonstrated technique, when he aimed carefully, he would miss. But when he was simply talking, gesturing with the bow, letting arrows fly without intention, perfect shot every time. The students thought this was very mysterious until one of them understood. The master was always in the bullseye. It was only when he tried to hit it that he created the separation. The trying itself was the distance between arrow and target. This is the paradox of effort. The harder you try to relax, the more tense you become. The more desperately you pursue happiness, the more it eludes you. The tighter you grasp life, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you stop trying to live and simply live, when you stop trying to be happy and simply are, when you stop trying to relax and simply stop trying, then the magic happens. It's like learning to float. The beginning swimmer thrashes and struggles, trying to stay above water, but floating requires the opposite. You have to trust the water to hold you. You have to let go, spread out, become one with the supporting element. The moment you trust, you float. The water was always ready to support you. You just had to stop fighting it. Or consider the old tale of the farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbors said, "What bad luck." He said, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" The horse returned with 3 wild horses. "What good luck?" said the neighbors. "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" said the farmer. His son tried to ride one of the wild horses and broke his leg. "What bad luck? Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" The next day, military conscription officers came through the village and rejected the son because of his broken leg. And so it goes on and on. Each event that seems like chaos, like disruption, like things going wrong, is actually just life doing its thing. We label events good or bad based on our limited perspective, like ants trying to judge the architect's blueprint. The farmer in the story has what I call cosmic perspective. He's not indifferent. He cares for his horse, tends to his son, but he doesn't pretend to know what it all means. He doesn't rush to slap labels on the flow of events. He lives in the question rather than insisting on premature answers. Modern science is catching up to these ancient insights in the most delightful ways. Researchers studying heart rate variability find that too much regularity is actually a sign of disease. A healthy heart dances, it speeds up and slows down in complex patterns. Perfect regularity means you're either a machine or you're dead. Then there's this wonderful phenomenon called stochastic resonance. Add a little random noise to a weak signal and suddenly the signal becomes clearer. It's counterintuitive. You'd think noise would always make things worse. But no, the right amount of chaos actually helps order emerge. Your nervous system uses this principle. Your life uses this principle. The universe uses this principle. Nassim Taleb writes about anti-fragility, systems that don't just survive chaos but actually grow stronger from it. That's you, by the way. You're an anti-fragile system pretending to be fragile. Every challenge you've faced, every unexpected turn, every moment of chaos has actually made you more capable, more adaptable, more alive. You're like a tree that grows stronger in the wind. The very forces that seem to threaten you are actually training you. I receive letters from people who've embraced this dance with chaos, and their stories never fail to delight me. One woman wrote that she stopped planning her weekends and started following her curiosity instead. I just asked myself on Saturday morning, what wants to happen today? And then I follow the breadcrumbs. She ended up taking a wrong turn that led her to a community garden where she now volunteers and has found her dearest friends. The wrong turn was the right turn. It just wasn't on any map. A businessman shared that he stopped fighting market volatility and started surfing it instead. I realized the market wasn't misbehaving. I was expecting it to behave like a machine when it's actually alive. His anxiety decreased and, ironically, his profits increased. When you stop demanding that life follow your business plan, you start to notice the opportunities that were always there. A young student wrote that she stopped trying to control her creative process and started showing up with curiosity. I used to sit down to write with a plan, an outline, a determination to produce. Now I sit down to discover what wants to be written. Her writer's block dissolved like morning mist. Of course it did. Writer's block is just the creative process being strangled by the controlling mind. You see, all these people discovered the same secret. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a dance to be danced. And you can't dance if you're constantly checking the instruction manual. Let me share something that might sound strange at first. Your problems are not obstacles to your life. They are your life. Without challenges, without uncertainty, without the unexpected, what would you have? A flat line. The very things you're trying to eliminate are the things that make you feel alive. Think about the last time you felt truly, vitally alive. I'll bet it wasn't while everything was going according to plan. It was probably when plans fell apart, when you had to improvise, when you were surfing the edge of chaos. That's because aliveness and uncertainty are intimate friends. Security and aliveness are not enemies, but they're not the same thing. You can have a secure life or an alive life, but if you try to have a totally secure, alive life, you'll end up with neither. This is why all the great spiritual traditions include an element of surrender, of letting go. The Christians call it, "Thy will be done." The Muslims speak of Islam, which means submission to the will of Allah. The Hindus talk about karma yoga, acting without attachment to results. The Buddhists cultivate non-attachment. The Taoists practice Wu Wei, different fingers pointing at the same moon. They're all saying, stop trying to steer the river. You're not the captain, you're the water, and water always knows where to go. It doesn't need a map or a plan or a GPS. It just flows, always taking the path of least resistance, always finding its way to the sea. But here's where people misunderstand. Surrender doesn't mean becoming passive. Water isn't passive. Have you seen what it can do to solid rock? Surrender means aligning yourself with the fundamental flow of existence instead of fighting it. It means becoming an agent of the universe instead of imagining you're separate from it. So here's my challenge to you, a practical experiment in chaos dancing. For the next 7 days, plan one surprise for yourself each day. Not a big surprise, just leave one thing unplanned. Take a different route home. Eat at a random restaurant. Maybe choose the third one you pass, regardless of what it is. Call someone you haven't spoken to in years. Say yes to an invitation you'd normally decline. Court chaos in small doses and see what happens. But here's the trick. Don't do this to get results. Don't turn it into another project, another way to improve yourself. Do it as play. Do it because you're curious. Do it because life is too magnificent to always know what's coming next. Each morning, instead of immediately checking your phone, checking the news, checking your plans, try this. Lie still for just a moment and check in with existence. Feel the aliveness in your body. Notice that you're breathing without having to manage it. Notice that your heart is beating without your supervision. Notice that somewhere blood is turning into thoughts, and thoughts are turning into awareness, and you have no idea how any of it works. This is the cosmic mystery you're swimming in every moment. You're not a tourist here, you're a native. You belong to this mystery as much as the stars belong to the sky. Throughout your day, whenever you notice yourself tensing up, trying to control, getting anxious about chaos, pause and ask yourself, what if this is exactly what's supposed to be happening? Not because some deity planned it, but because this is what is happening. And reality doesn't make mistakes. Reality can't make mistakes because it's not following a plan. It's improvising. And before you protest that terrible things happen, that chaos brings suffering, yes, of course it does. I'm not suggesting you paste a silly smile on life's difficulties, but suffering and chaos are not the same thing. Suffering is what happens when we demand that reality be different than it is. Chaos is just reality doing its thing. The Buddha's great insight wasn't that life contains suffering. Everyone knows that. His insight was that suffering comes from wanting things to be different than they are. When you stop insisting that the universe follow your script, a remarkable thing happens. Suffering diminishes, even though pain might remain. Pain is when you break your leg. Suffering is spending the next 6 months furious that you broke your leg. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And the difference between them is your relationship with chaos. Now, I want to address something important. Some of you might be thinking, this is all very well for minor worries and traffic jams, but what about real tragedy? What about death, disaster, heartbreak? Fair question. Let's not pretend that philosophy makes you invulnerable. But here's what I've observed. The people who handle real tragedy with the most grace are those who have already made friends with uncertainty. They're not shocked that life includes loss because they never believed the illusion of permanence in the first place. They grieve fully because they loved fully, knowing all along that everything changes. The alternative, trying to protect yourself from loss by controlling everything, doesn't work anyway. It just means you suffer twice, once in anticipation and once when it happens despite your best efforts. The person who dances with chaos suffers once, cleanly, without the added layer of, this shouldn't be happening. And here's something even more radical. Often what we call tragedy is just change wearing a frightening mask. The divorce that seems like the end of the world becomes the beginning of a new chapter. The job loss that feels like disaster becomes the push toward a more authentic life. The illness that seems like pure misfortune becomes the teacher that shows us what really matters. I'm not saying these things aren't painful. I'm saying that pain and possibility often travel together, and you can't have one without risking the other. Let me tell you about a friend who discovered she had cancer. Her first response was exactly what you'd expect: fear, anger, the desperate need to control outcomes. But then something shifted. She said, I realized I could spend whatever time I have left fighting reality, or I could dance with it. She didn't give up treatment. She threw herself into it wholeheartedly. But she stopped treating cancer as an enemy invasion and started treating it as a confused part of herself that had forgotten how to dance with the whole. She said yes to treatment, yes to rest when she needed it, yes to help from friends, yes to not knowing what would happen. The remarkable thing wasn't that she recovered, though she did. The remarkable thing was that she said the experience taught her how to live. I'd been so busy trying to prevent death that I'd forgotten to be alive, she told me. Cancer taught me to dance. Now, please don't misunderstand. I'm not romanticizing illness or suggesting you should seek out suffering. I'm saying that when chaos comes, and it will come, you have a choice about how to meet it. You can meet it as an enemy, or you can meet it as a teacher. You can meet it with a closed fist or an open hand. The universe is constantly offering you opportunities to practice. Every red light, every delayed flight, every unexpected bill, every piece of unwelcome news. These are all invitations to dance. They're small training sessions for the bigger dances that life will eventually ask of you. And here's the beautiful thing. The more you practice with small chaos, the more natural it becomes. You develop what I call chaos fitness, the ability to stay fluid when things get rigid, to find stillness in motion, to discover opportunity in disruption. Think of it like learning a musical instrument. At first, every note is a struggle. You have to think about where to put your fingers, how to breathe, how to hold your body. It's all very controlled and effortful, but gradually the music starts to play itself through you. You stop being someone playing music and become music playing. The same thing happens with chaos. At first, every disruption feels like a crisis. You have to consciously remember to breathe, to allow, to dance instead of fight. But gradually, it becomes natural. You stop being someone dealing with chaos and become chaos dealing with itself. This is what the Taoists mean when they talk about returning to the state of the uncarved block. Not stupidity, but a kind of intelligent innocence. You respond to life freshly, spontaneously, without the overlay of how things should be. You become like water, infinitely responsive, infinitely adaptable, always yourself. And this brings us to a crucial point. You can't fake this. You can't pretend to be okay with chaos while secretly trying to control it. The universe is not stupid. It knows when you're saying yes with your mouth while your whole body is saying no. True acceptance has a quality of genuineness that nothing else can match. So start where you are. If you're terrified of uncertainty, be honest about that. If you hate not being in control, acknowledge it fully. The path to dancing with chaos begins with being honest about your current relationship with it. You can't get to yes without passing through an honest no. Here's a practice that helps. When you notice yourself resisting what's happening, pause and say, I notice I'm resisting. That's all. Don't try to stop resisting. Don't judge the resistance. Just notice it. I notice I'm angry about this delay. I notice I'm scared about this change. I notice I want things to be different. This simple noticing creates a little space between you and the resistance. In that space, something new can happen. Maybe nothing changes. Maybe the resistance intensifies. Maybe it suddenly dissolves. The point isn't to control what happens. The point is to notice what happens. Because here's the secret. The part of you that notices is already at peace. The part of you that can say, I notice I'm anxious, is not itself anxious. It's like the sky watching clouds pass through it. The sky is never disturbed by the weather. It's the space in which weather happens. You have this sky-like quality within you. Call it awareness, call it consciousness, call it the witness. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that this part of you is already perfectly at ease with chaos because it is itself the space in which both chaos and order arise. Think about your dreams. In dreams, the most chaotic things happen. You're flying, then you're in your childhood home, then you're talking to someone who died years ago, then you're naked in a business meeting. Complete chaos. But the awareness that experiences the dream isn't confused by any of it. It simply experiences what's happening without demanding that it make sense. Your waking life is like this too. The awareness that's reading these words right now has been present through every moment of your life, calmly experiencing whatever arises. It was there in your most ordered moments and your most chaotic ones, equally present to both, disturbed by neither. This is why meditation teachers often say you're already enlightened. They're not being cute or paradoxical. They're pointing to this ever-present awareness that doesn't need to learn how to dance with chaos, because it is the dance floor itself. But, and this is important, recognizing this doesn't mean you'll never feel disturbed again. It means you'll have a refuge in the midst of disturbance. It's like discovering you've been carrying an umbrella all along while running through the rain. The rain doesn't stop, but your relationship to it changes completely. So we come back to the practical question. How do we live this understanding? How do we embody this dance with chaos in our daily lives? The answer is deceptively simple. One moment at a time, with as much honesty and humor as we can muster. When the alarm goes off tomorrow morning, notice your first thought. Is it resistance? Oh no, not yet. Is it planning? I have to do this, then that, then the other thing. Whatever it is, just notice. Then notice your next breath. Notice that you're alive for another day of this grand experiment. As you move through your morning routine, see if you can do it without rehearsing the day ahead. Brush your teeth while brushing your teeth, not while having an imaginary conversation with your boss. Drink your coffee while drinking your coffee, not while fighting yesterday's battle again. This isn't about being mindful in some precious self-conscious way. It's about being present to your actual life instead of the mental movie about your life. The mental movie is always either a rerun or a preview. Your actual life is always live. When you get to work or school or wherever your day takes you, notice how much energy goes into maintaining the illusion of control. The careful scheduling, the contingency plans, the worry about what might go wrong. Ask yourself, what would happen if I put that same energy into responding creatively to what actually happens? This doesn't mean abandoning all planning. Plans are wonderful servants but terrible masters. Make your plans by all means, but hold them lightly, like soap bubbles. Admire their beautiful structure, but don't be surprised when they pop. Have another bubble ready. Life is generous with possibilities. Throughout your day, practice what I call the sacred pause. When you notice tension arising, when you feel the urge to control or resist, pause. Take one conscious breath, just one. In that pause, remember that you're not a separate self fighting the universe. You're the universe having a human experience. This remembering doesn't have to be a big deal. It can be as simple as a smile, a softening of the shoulders, an inner, ah yes, here we are again, like recognizing an old friend in a crowd. Oh, it's you, chaos. Welcome back. What shall we dance today? And when you forget, which you will repeatedly, that's perfect too. Forgetting and remembering is the rhythm. If you never forgot, you'd never have the joy of remembering. If you were always in perfect flow with chaos, you'd have nothing to learn, nothing to discover, no surprises left. The spiritual path isn't about reaching some state where you never feel overwhelmed, never lose your center, never wish things were different. It's about developing such a friendly relationship with being human that even your failures become part of the dance. I know someone who keeps what she calls a chaos journal. Every evening, she writes down one way that chaos visited her that day and how she danced with it. Sometimes the entries are profound. Mom called with diagnosis, cried, made soup, presence of love in the midst of fear. Sometimes they're mundane, spilled coffee on shirt, laughed instead of cursing, wore it like abstract art. What she's discovered is that chaos is constantly creative. It never repeats itself exactly. Every day brings new variations on the ancient themes of uncertainty, change, the unexpected. And every day she gets to discover new ways to dance, because that's what we're doing here. All of us, we're improvising. Despite all our plans and systems and beliefs, we're all just making it up as we go along. The difference is whether we admit it or not. The people who admit it tend to dance more gracefully. So here's your homework, if we can call it that. For the next week, court chaos in small ways. Change one routine. Say yes to something you'd normally refuse. Say no to something you'd normally accept. Eat lunch somewhere new. Take a different route. Call someone on impulse. Buy flowers for no reason. Wear mismatched socks. But more importantly, notice what happens inside you when you do these things. Notice the voice that says, "This is silly." Notice the part that's afraid of judgment. Notice the little thrill of breaking pattern. Notice how quickly the new becomes normal. And then notice this. You survived. More than survived, you discovered. Each small chaos brought some small revelation. Maybe you found a new favorite restaurant. Maybe you had an unexpected conversation. Maybe you just learned that you're more flexible than you thought. This is how we train for the bigger dances, not by preparing for specific scenarios. That's impossible. Life is too creative for that. We train by developing our capacity to dance with whatever arises. We become chaos athletes, developing our balance, our flexibility, our ability to flow. And gradually something beautiful happens. We stop seeing chaos as the enemy of order and start seeing it as order's dance partner. We stop trying to eliminate uncertainty and start appreciating it as life's way of keeping things interesting. We stop demanding that reality follow our script and start enjoying the cosmic improv show. Remember, you're not trying to become someone who's comfortable with chaos. You're recognizing that you already are that someone. Every cell in your body knows how to dance with uncertainty. They've been doing it since before you were born. Every breath is an act of faith in the next moment. Every heartbeat is a yes to the unknown. The question isn't whether you can handle chaos. You've been handling it your whole life. The question is whether you can enjoy the dance, whether you can find the beauty in the uncertainty, the opportunity in the disruption, the grace in the constant change. Because here's the final secret. Chaos isn't just something to be tolerated or managed or survived. Chaos is the creative principle itself. It's what keeps life from becoming stale, predictable, dead. It's the source of all novelty, all evolution, all possibility. When you truly understand this, something shifts. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this making possible? You stop seeing disruption as the enemy of your plans and start seeing it as life's way of offering you something better than you could have planned. This isn't optimism, it's realism. The universe has been creating through chaos for billions of years. Stars are born from the chaos of nebulae. Life emerged from the chaos of primordial soup. You emerged from the chaos of countless, seemingly random events that had to happen exactly as they did for you to exist. Chaos isn't your enemy, it's your mother. And like any good mother, chaos knows when to comfort and when to challenge. Sometimes it rocks you gently, giving you just enough uncertainty to keep you growing. Sometimes it throws you into the deep end because that's the only way you'll learn to swim. But always, always, it's working for your evolution, your expansion, your aliveness. Consider how a child learns to walk. It's pure chaos, falling, stumbling, wobbling, crashing. The child doesn't have a manual. They don't take a course in walking theory. They just keep experimenting with this outrageous idea of balancing on two tiny feet while moving forward. Every fall is feedback. Every wobble is information. And one day, without knowing exactly how it happened, they're walking. This is how all learning happens. This is how all growth happens. Through the willingness to engage with uncertainty, to risk falling, to treat failure as information rather than condemnation. The child doesn't sit down after the first fall and say, well, I guess I'm not a walker. They get up and fall again, usually laughing. When did we lose this? When did we start believing that we should know how to do things before we do them? When did we start treating mistakes as moral failures rather than necessary steps in the dance? I'll tell you when. It's when we bought into the illusion of the separate self, when we started believing we were autonomous units who could and should control our experience, when we forgot that we're expressions of the same creative chaos that makes galaxies spiral and flowers bloom. But here's the wonderful thing. That childlike ability to dance with chaos is still there. It's just been covered over by layers of conditioning, like a spring covered by fallen leaves. Clear away the leaves and the water flows freely again. Let me share with you what I call the yes practice. It's deceptively simple. For one full day, say yes to everything that happens. Not yes to every request. That would be madness. But yes to the fact of what's happening. Rain, yes. Traffic, yes. Criticism, yes. Compliment, yes. Confusion, yes. This yes isn't approval. It's not saying you like what's happening. It's acknowledgement. It's replacing the automatic no of resistance with the openness of yes. It's meeting reality without the armor of how things should be. A woman tried this practice and wrote to me. At first it felt fake, forced, but around midday something cracked open. I realized how much energy I waste every day fighting reality. My shoulders dropped 2 inches. I started laughing at nothing. My husband asked if I was okay, and I said yes, and meant it for the first time in years. You see, we exhaust ourselves with the constant number. No to the weather, no to our feelings, no to other people being how they are, no to life being life. This no takes tremendous energy to maintain. It's like trying to hold back the tide with your hands. But when you say yes, not the yes of resignation, but the yes of recognition, something relaxes. You stop wasting energy on the impossible task of controlling the universe and start having energy for the possible task of dancing with it. This is what I mean by relaxing into chaos. It's not becoming passive or indifferent. It's becoming supple, responsive, alive to what's actually happening instead of what you think should be happening. Think of a jazz musician. They have structure, the chord changes, the rhythm, the key. But within that structure, they're completely free to explore, to surprise themselves, to discover. They're not playing from a score, they're playing from presence. And when they hit a wrong note, they don't stop and apologize. They use it, they play with it, they make it part of the music. Life is asking you to be a jazz musician, to know your scales, your values, your skills, your commitments, but to play them fresh each time, to treat mistakes as opportunities for innovation, to realize that the best music happens when you're listening as much as playing. But most of us are trying to be classical musicians in a jazz universe. We want the score written out in advance. We want to know exactly what notes to play when. We want guarantees that if we practice hard enough, we'll never hit a wrong note. The universe laughs at this, not cruel laughter, the delighted laughter of a parent watching a child try to plan out their entire life at age 5. I'm going to be a fireman and a dinosaur, and I'm going to marry my teddy bear and live on the moon. The universe says, wonderful, let's see what actually wants to happen. This gap between our plans and what actually happens, that's not a bug in the system. That's the feature. That's where life lives. In the surprises, the plot twists, the unexpected turns that take you somewhere you never could have imagined going. I knew a man who had his whole life planned out. College, law school, partnership, retirement. He was right on track until a chance encounter at a coffee shop led to a conversation about sailing. 6 months later, he was crossing the Pacific on a 40-foot ketch. His family thought he'd lost his mind. He said he'd found it. I realized, he told me, that I'd been so busy following my plan that I'd never asked if it was actually my plan. It was just what seemed sensible. But sensible to whom? When I was honest, I realized I'd rather be poor and sailing than rich and landlocked. Now, I'm not saying everyone should quit their job and buy a boat. That's just another plan, another should. I'm saying everyone should listen to what's actually calling them, as opposed to what they think should be calling them. And that call often comes disguised as chaos, as disruption to our carefully laid plans. The universe is constantly trying to upgrade your life, but it can't do it while you're clutching the old version. It's like trying to give someone a gift when their hands are full. You have to put down what you're carrying to receive what's being offered. This is the deeper meaning of surrender. Not giving up, but opening up. Not becoming powerless, but becoming available to a power greater than your small will. The power of life itself, which knows how to grow forests and heal wounds and turn winter into spring without consulting any manual. When you align with this power, when you stop trying to steer the river and become the river, miracles happen. But they're not really miracles, they're just life doing what it does when we stop interfering. The miracle is that we ever thought we were separate from it. Here's a practice I love. Once a day, do something without knowing why. Follow an impulse. Turn left instead of right. Call someone who just popped into your mind. Buy the flower that catches your eye. Don't analyze it, don't justify it. Just do it and see what happens. This isn't random. This is learning to trust the part of you that's connected to the whole, the part that knows things your conscious mind doesn't know. Call it intuition, call it the unconscious, call it the Tao. It doesn't matter what you call it. What matters is that you learn to trust it. Because here's what nobody tells you. Chaos has intelligence. It's not random noise. It's information too complex for our linear minds to process. When you learn to relax into it instead of fighting it, you gain access to this intelligence. You start to see patterns you couldn't see before. You start to sense the rhythm underneath the apparent randomness. This is what surfers know. You can't outsmart the ocean. You can't force it to give you the wave you want, but you can learn to read it, to feel its moods, to position yourself where the good waves are likely to form. And when the right wave comes, you don't think about it, you just go. Life is constantly offering you waves, waves of opportunity, waves of challenge, waves of change. Most of us are standing on the shore, analyzing the waves, waiting for the perfect one. But there is no perfect wave. There's only the wave that's here now, offering to take you somewhere new. So relax, let go. The universe has been doing this for 13 billion years. It knows what it's doing. And what it's doing right now is you, in all your messy, uncertain, beautifully chaotic glory. The next time you feel overwhelmed by uncertainty, remember this moment. Remember that you're not a victim of chaos, you're an expression of it. You're not trying to survive the dance, you are the dance. And the dance, as they say, goes on. Who is it that is disturbed when nothing can disturb you? Don't try to answer with your mind. Let the question sink into your bones. Let it marinate in your cells. Let it whisper to you in the space between thoughts, in the pause between breaths. Because in that space, in that pause, you'll find something remarkable. You'll find that the one who's afraid of chaos and the chaos itself arise from the same source. They're both waves in the same ocean. And you're the ocean, playing at being waves. Now, isn't that cause for celebration? Isn't that reason enough to dance? The universe is throwing a party, and you're not just invited, you're the guest of honor. Every moment is a surprise party thrown just for you. The only question is, will you unwrap the present? The gift is always the present. The present is always a gift. And chaos? Chaos is just the universe's way of keeping the party interesting. So dance, my friends. Dance with the uncertainty. Dance with the changes. Dance with whatever life brings to your door. Because in the end, we're all going to the same place anyway. We might as well enjoy the journey. And what a journey it is. What an absolute, unmitigated, gloriously chaotic miracle it is to be alive, to be aware, to be able to experience this grand adventure. Every breath is a victory. Every heartbeat is a celebration. Every moment of consciousness is a gift beyond measure. When you really get this, when it sinks in past your thoughts into your very being, you'll find yourself laughing at the most inappropriate times. You'll find yourself crying with gratitude for no reason at all. You'll find yourself dancing to music no one else can hear, and people will think you've gone slightly mad. Good. That's a sign you're getting somewhere. Because what passes for sanity in our culture is often just a collective agreement to be miserable in the same way, to worry about the same things, to pretend we have control when we obviously don't. But there's a different kind of sanity available. The sanity of the sage who laughs at the cosmic joke, who sees through the grand illusion without being bitter about it. This isn't the laughter of superiority or cynicism. It's the laughter of recognition, like suddenly getting a joke you've been puzzling over for years. The joke, of course, is that we've been looking everywhere for what we already are. We've been seeking peace while being peace. We've been chasing happiness while made of joy. We've been trying to find God while being the very eyes through which God looks at the world. A Zen master was asked, "What did you do before enlightenment?" He said, "I chopped wood and carried water." "And what do you do after enlightenment?" "I chop wood and carry water." So what's the difference? Before enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. After enlightenment, I chop wood and carry water. You see, nothing changes and everything changes. You still go to work, pay bills, get stuck in traffic, but now you know it's all a dance. You're not fooled anymore into thinking any of it is ultimately serious. You participate fully, play your role with gusto, but you never forget it's a play. This is the ultimate relaxation. Not the relaxation of the body, though that may come too, but the relaxation of the existential clench, that tightness in the very core of being that comes from believing you're separate, vulnerable, alone in an alien universe. When that relaxes, when that lets go, what remains? Just this, just consciousness being conscious, just the universe looking at itself with 10 billion eyes, just the one playing at being many, the eternal playing at being temporal, the infinite playing at being finite. And in that recognition, chaos loses its sting. Oh, it's still chaotic, things still break, plans still fail, bodies still age, loved ones still leave. But now you see it's all part of the dance. The breaking is as sacred as the building. The falling is as necessary as the rising. The dying is as creative as the birthing. This isn't spiritual bypassing. This isn't pretending pain doesn't hurt or loss doesn't grieve. It's holding it all in a larger context, a context so large that even the greatest tragedy is like a single note in an infinite symphony. A necessary note, a perfect note in its place, but not the whole story. Never the whole story. So here you are at the end of our time together, though of course there are no real endings, only transitions. What will you do with what you've heard? Will you file it away as an interesting philosophy? Will you try to turn it into another technique for controlling life? Or will you dare to actually experiment with it? Here's my parting invitation. Go out into your life and court chaos like a lover. Flirt with uncertainty. Dance with the unexpected. When life zigs, you zag. When it zags, you zig. When it stands still, you swirl around it. Make friends with not knowing. Fall in love with surprise. And when you find yourself gripping again, which you will, we all do, just notice it with kindness. Ah, here I am trying to control the universe again. How human of me. Then let go, just a little. You don't have to let go completely. You don't have to do anything perfectly. Just loosen your grip enough to let life flow through your fingers again. Because in the end, my friends, we're all going to have to let go anyway. We're all going to return to the chaos from which we emerged. We're all going to dissolve back into the mystery. The question is, will we go gracefully, having learned to dance, or will we go fighting, having never realized it was a dance at all? The choice is yours in every moment. The dance floor is always here. The music is always playing. And chaos? Chaos is just life's way of asking you to tango. Will you dance